Welcome back to our English Learning channel. I hope you are having a wonderful day wherever you are listening from.
Yes, welcome back. We are so happy to have you here with us for another deep dive.
You know, we usually spend so much time on this channel talking about the mechanics of English.
Right. Grammar rules, vocabulary lists, pronunciation.
All of the academic side of learning.
Yeah,
And it's important stuff.
of course. You absolutely need those building blocks. But today, we're going to shift our focus just a little bit. We're going to talk about something that is, I think, just as important as your academic skills, but, it often gets overlooked in school.
That's so true. Today, we are doing a deep dive into education and life skills. We're looking at a stack of research that all points to this one idea. There's a set of skills, let's call them life skills, that everyone needs to succeed. And not just in school, but in your career, your relationships, really just in navigating daily life.
Yeah. I love this topic. I really do. Because as teachers, we see this all the time.
Yeah.
You can have a student who gets perfect scores on every grammar test.
Right.
But if they can't communicate effectively with other people, or if they, fall apart every time they make a small mistake,
Yeah.
they're going to struggle out there in the real world.
Exactly. It's like the difference between knowing the definition of a word and actually being able to use it in a conversation. One is just knowledge, the other is a skill.
That's a great analogy.
So our goal today is to move pretty slowly, really clearly through these concepts.
Yeah.
We want to unpack not just what these skills are, but why they matter so much, and, specifically how you can start to build them.
And just to keep things organized for you, we're going to look at 4 main pillars or 4 main areas that come up again and again in our source material.
Okay.
Those pillars are communication, emotional intelligence, problem solving, and time management.
That sounds like a big list, doesn't it? But don't worry, we're going to take this step by step. Let's imagine we're building a house.
Okay, I like that.
The first thing we need is a solid foundation. And in the world of life skills, that foundation is what the sources call the art of connection.
The art of connection. I like that title. And it covers our first 2 pillars, communication and emotional intelligence.
Right.
Because before you can manage a big project or solve some complex problem, you just have to be able to deal with people.
So let's start with communication. Our sources break this down into 3 parts. And the first one seems obvious, but it's actually quite difficult. It's speaking clearly and confidently.
Speaking clearly. Now, for everyone listening, you might think this just means having good pronunciation. And, well, that is part of it.
But it's more than that.
It's much more. Clarity here means organizing your thoughts before you even open your mouth.
That is such a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, how often have you seen someone start talking and they're just rambling?
All the time. They might have a brilliant idea in there somewhere, but it's buried under a mountain of confusing words. So, clear speaking is about structure. It's about being able to say, here is my main point, and here is why I think that. It's respecting the listener's time by being direct.
And the source pairs clearly with confidently. This is something I know a lot of language learners really struggle with. Confidence.
Yeah.
Why is that listed as a communication skill?
Well, think about it this way. If you say something, but your voice is shaking, or you're looking at the floor, or you just sound unsure.
Then the listener might doubt what you're saying.
Exactly. Confidence is like the delivery vehicle. It carries your words to the other person, and it helps them trust your message.
And confidence doesn't mean you have to be loud or arrogant.
No, not at all. In fact, some of the most confident speakers are actually very quiet. Confidence just means you're steady. You believe in your words, so you don't need to shout them. You just need to speak them.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, now the second part of communication is something that I think is even harder than speaking. It's listening actively.
Active listening. This is the secret weapon of all great communicators. And you're right, it is very hard, especially when you're learning a new language.
Totally, because when I'm listening in another language, my brain is just working so hard to translate the words. I'm usually just stressing about what I'm going to say next.
Yes.
I'm not really listening, I'm just waiting for my turn to talk.
That is the trap we all fall into. We listen to respond, not to understand. Active listening, according to the source material, means you are fully focused on the speaker.
So no phone.
No phone, you're not planning your grocery list, you're not rehearsing your answer in your head.
It's about input, not output.
Precisely. It's about giving the other person your full attention. And when you do that, you pick up on all these little things you would otherwise miss. Their tone of voice, hesitation.
You get the meaning, not just the words.
You get the meaning.
Yeah.
And that builds trust. People love to feel heard.
They really do. Okay, the third point under communication is expressing ideas respectfully.
This is so crucial. We live in a world where everyone has a different opinion. You are not going to agree with everyone you meet.
No?
So the skill is, can you disagree without being disagreeable?
Oh, that's a great phrase. Disagree without being disagreeable. So how do we do that?
It really comes down to your language and your tone. So instead of saying you are wrong, which feels like an attack,
Right.
you might say, I see it a bit differently, or that's an interesting point, but have you considered? It just keeps the door open for a real conversation.
So communication is about clarity, active listening, and respect. That's the external side of connection. But now let's look inside. Let's talk about that second pillar, emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence, or EQ. This is a huge topic in education right now. And it basically just means being smart about your feelings.
The first skill the source lists here is managing emotions.
Right. Managing emotions. This is the ability to recognize what you're feeling and then not let that feeling hijack your behavior. Let's say you're in a classroom and someone criticizes your work.
My first reaction might be to get angry, or maybe to feel really ashamed and just want to hide.
Exactly. And those are very natural reactions. Managing your emotions doesn't mean you don't feel that anger or shame.
Okay.
It means you have a kind of pause button, you feel the anger, you recognize it, okay, I'm feeling angry right now, and then you choose how to respond instead of just exploding.
That pause button is so valuable, and it connects directly to the next point in the text, which is handling stress.
Stress is universal. I mean, whether you're studying for an exam or preparing for a job interview or just trying to pay the bills, stress is always there.
And I think for our listeners, the stress of speaking a new language is very real. That fear of making a mistake can be paralyzing sometimes.
It really can. A person with high emotional intelligence, they know how to handle that stress. They have strategies. Maybe it's taking a deep breath. Maybe it's just stepping away for 5 minutes. They know that when they're stressed, their brain doesn't work as well, so they take steps to calm down first.
So it's about self-regulation, knowing yourself. The final point in this section is understanding others.
And this brings us right back to empathy. If emotional intelligence starts with understanding your own feelings, it really ends with trying to understand the feelings of others.
It's like putting yourself in their shoes.
Exactly. When you can understand why someone is acting the way they are, maybe they're stressed, maybe they're just having a bad day, it completely changes how you treat them.
You become more patient.
More patient, you become a better friend, a better colleague.
So you can really see how communication and EQ just work together. You need the EQ to understand the person, and you need the communication skills to talk to them.
That's a perfect summary. They are the art of connection.
Okay, let's take a deep breath. We've built the foundation. Now let's move to the second part of our discussion. The source calls this navigating the world.
This section is a bit more cognitive. It's about how we use our brains to get things done. So we're talking about problem solving and time management.
Let's start with problem solving. The first element listed is thinking critically. Now, critical thinking is a buzzword we hear all the time in universities. But what does it actually mean in real life?
It does sound very academic, doesn't it? But critical thinking is actually super practical. It basically just means looking deeper. It means not accepting the first answer you see.
Okay, can you give us an example?
Sure. Imagine you read a headline online that says, "Drinking coffee makes you live forever."
Okay,
A critical thinker doesn't just go, "Wow, great," and start drinking 10 cups a day.
right. A critical thinker asks questions.
Exactly. They ask, who wrote this? Where's the evidence? Does this even make sense? In life, critical thinking is about analyzing a situation before you act. It's using logic, not just emotion.
And once you've analyzed the situation, you have to do the next thing on the list, making decisions.
Decision making. This is so tough for a lot of people. There's a term for it. Analysis paralysis.
I've heard that.
You just think so much that you get stuck. You're so afraid of making the wrong choice that you end up making no choice at all.
I am definitely guilty of that sometimes.
Yeah.
Even with small things like what to eat for dinner.
We all are. But a key life skill is the ability to weigh your options and then, and this is the important part, commit to a decision. You have to trust yourself enough to just move forward.
But what if I make the wrong decision? What if I fail? That leads us to the most interesting point in this section, I think. The source explicitly says we need the skill of learning from failure.
I am so glad this is included. In traditional education, failure is. It's a bad thing. Failure means you got an F.
It means you didn't study.
Right. But in life, failure is just data.
Data. I like that. Explain what you mean by that.
Well, when you try to solve a problem and it doesn't work, you haven't really failed in a negative way. You've just learned one method that doesn't work. You have more information now than you did before.
This is so relevant for language learning. I tell my students all the time, if you aren't making mistakes, you aren't learning.
Exactly. If you wait until you can speak perfect English before you open your mouth, you will be silent forever. You have to try, fail, look at the mistake, learn from it, and try again. That cycle, try, fail, learn, repeat, that is what real problem solving actually looks like.
So failure isn't the end of the road. It's just a stepping stone on the path.
It's the only way to grow.
Okay, we've covered problem solving. Now we get to the final pillar, and this is one that I think every single person struggles with at some point. Time management.
Oh, yes. That feeling that there's just never enough time in the day.
The source material focuses on one specific aspect here, and that's setting priorities.
And notice it doesn't say doing everything. It says setting priorities.
That is a huge distinction. I think we often feel like being productive means checking off like 50 things on our to-do list.
But if those 50 things aren't actually important, you haven't been productive. You've just been busy. Setting priorities is about looking at your list and asking, what are the 2 or 3 things that truly matter today?
It's about knowing the difference between what's urgent, like a ringing phone, and what's important, like studying for your big exam.
Correct. And this requires discipline. It means you have to say no to the small, unimportant things so that you can say yes to the big, important ones.
And if you can do that, you reduce so much stress. So time management actually helps your emotional intelligence.
They're all connected. When you manage your time well, you're less stressed. When you're less stressed, you communicate better. When you communicate better, you can solve problems more easily. It's like an ecosystem of skills.
That is a great image. An ecosystem of skills. Okay, so we've discussed the 4 pillars: communication, EQ, problem solving, and time management. But now we need to ask the big question, why? Why should our listeners spend time and energy on these things?
Well, the source gives us 4 very powerful benefits. The first one is that these skills build independence.
Independence. That's really the goal of education, isn't it? To be able to stand on your own 2 feet.
It is. When you know how to manage your own time and handle your own emotions and speak up for yourself, you don't need a babysitter. You become a truly independent adult. You can rely on yourself.
And that feeling of self-reliance, that leads directly to the second benefit, increasing confidence.
Confidence comes from competence. When you know you have the tools to handle a difficult situation, you just feel less afraid. If you know you can learn from failure, you're not so scared to try new things.
You walk through the world with your head held a little higher.
Exactly.
The third benefit listed is adaptability. The text says these skills help people adapt to change.
And just think about how fast the world is changing right now. Technology, AI, the economy, everything is in motion.
It can be scary.
It is scary. But academic facts, like knowing the date of a historical battle, that might not help you when your job suddenly changes. But the ability to learn, to communicate, to solve new problems, those skills work in any situation. They make you flexible.
So if you have strong life skills, you're kind of future-proof. You can handle whatever changes come your way.
Yes, you're resilient.
And finally, the source mentions success. Specifically, it says these skills improve relationships and career success.
And I think we've all seen this. You can be the smartest person in the room, but if you can't work well with a team, you probably won't get promoted. Employers are desperate for people who can communicate clearly and manage their time.
So these aren't just nice-to-have skills. They're actually essential for a good career and a happy life.
Absolutely essential.
Okay, so we're convinced. We know what they are, and we know why we need them. Now comes the hard part, the how. How do we actually build these skills? Because you can't just memorize a list of EQ rules.
No, you really can't. And this is where our source material gives some very clear advice. The first point is, learn from experience, not just books.
As English teachers, this is our favorite topic. You cannot learn a language just by reading a textbook.
No way. You can read every book in the world about swimming, but if you never get in the water, you do not know how to swim. It's the same with life skills. You can't learn to manage stress by reading about it. You have to feel the stress and then practice using your tools.
You have to get in the water.
You have to get in the water. You have to put yourself in situations where you need to communicate. You have to take on projects that require time management. Experience is the only real teacher here.
The next piece of advice is take responsibility for your choices.
This is a tough one for a lot of people. Taking responsibility means owning your life. It means not blaming other people when things go wrong.
So if I'm late for a meeting, I shouldn't say, oh, the traffic was terrible.
Exactly. You should say, I'm sorry I didn't leave early enough. When you blame the traffic, you're helpless. You can't control traffic. But when you say, I didn't leave early enough, you are in control. You can choose to leave earlier next time.
That's such a powerful shift in perspective. Taking responsibility gives you the power to change.
It does. It moves you from being a victim of your circumstances to being the driver of your life.
And the final piece of advice, and I think this is the key to all of it, is practice daily habits consistently.
Consistency.
Yeah.
It is not about doing one big thing once a year. It's about doing the small things every single day.
Just like learning English. Studying for 10 minutes every day is infinitely better than studying for 5 hours once a month.
Precisely. You don't just achieve emotional intelligence and then you're done. It's a practice. You practice active listening every time you have a conversation. You practice setting priorities every morning when you look at your day.
It's about building muscle memory for these skills.
Yes. And eventually these things stop being skills you're trying to learn and they just become who you are.
That is the goal, to make them automatic.
Well, we have covered a tremendous amount of ground today. Let's just take a moment and look back at the map of our conversation.
Okay. We started with the 4 pillars. First, we had the art of connection. That's communication and emotional intelligence, speaking clearly, listening, managing our feelings.
Then we looked at navigating the world, problem solving, and time management, thinking critically, learning from failure, and setting those priorities.
Then we talked about why these matter. Because they give us independence, confidence, adaptability, and ultimately success.
And finally, we just covered how to build them by getting out there and experiencing life, by taking responsibility for our choices, and by practicing those habits every single day.
It's a lot to think about. But remember, you don't have to do it all at once.
No, not at all. Just take it one step at a time. Be patient with yourself.
Before we go, I want to leave you with a small challenge. We talked about how important it is to learn from experience and to make choices.
Right. Taking responsibility for your choices.
Exactly. So here's a question I want you to carry with you today. What is one small choice you can make right now to practice just one of these skills?
That's a great question. And it doesn't have to be big at all. Maybe it's the choice to put your phone in your pocket during dinner with your family, just so you can practice active listening.
Or maybe it's a choice to take 3 deep breaths the next time you feel stressed to practice managing your emotions.
Or even just choosing to write down the 3 most important things you need to do tomorrow before you go to bed.
Whatever it is, that choice is yours. And by making that choice, You are taking responsibility. You're building those skills.
And you're becoming a more capable and confident person.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into education and life skills. We hope this conversation helps you not just with your English, but with your life.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you for listening.
We will see you again in the next episode. Until then, keep learning, keep practicing, and take care of yourselves.
Goodbye.